Really excited to be here on behalf of New York City SHRM. I'm Ashley Bendell, District Manager at ADP. I co-manage the blog and digital content with Pamela Brown. Pamela Brown is the CHRO of Crunch Fitness, and we're both very excited to have Theresa Fesinstine here to bring her expert perspective on how to apply artificial intelligence, AI, to the world of work, to the world of HR. We're incredibly excited to see her at the ADP offices on behalf of New York City SHRM on September the 16th, and we really hope you can make it. So I'll just kick things off. Theresa, really nice to have you here. And then I'll hand over to you, Pamela. Before we jump into the nitty-gritty of AI and the workforce, could you just talk to me about, from your experience, if you were to advise someone or give some advice to your younger self or to a current college student looking to enter the real world in the world of HR, what might that advice be?
I love that. Thanks, Ashley. I love that question. And it's so time appropriate as I get ready to kick off my very first university class on Monday, where I'm teaching at the City College of New York. Shout out to City College, New York, in CUNY, on AI for business. And so I've been thinking about this question a lot. And, you know, I think one of the most important things that young talent considers is not only approaching new jobs, new learning, new experiences with the spirit of curiosity, which is something I talk all the time about when it comes to AI, just leaning into that possibility and what could be and getting, you know, kind of intimate with curiosity. But also, I think it's super important that we talk about advocacy, whether that's advocacy and representing you and who you are in the place that you're working, how to do that, how to speak up for what you need to learn in a respectful and thoughtful way, and in cognition of the coworkers and the people that you're going to be in environment with every day, but also sort of advocating outside of your own brief in terms of whether that's, hey, we're launching a new system, or we're looking at a new program or a new AI tool even, and who's involved in the conversation around that tool. And I think oftentimes, I'm sure Pamela and I will get into it, but I'm sure, you know, in my opinion, oftentimes HR is often seen as sort of the ancillary addition as opposed to the driver of strategy and deeply embedded in the process, especially when it comes to AI integration. And so you'll hear from me a lot that I do believe that AI is a people opportunity, and as such, people leaders need to be very heavily involved in that strategy and advocating for themselves to do so. So that's definitely something I'll be excited to talk to my students about as I meet them on Monday.
Oh, you're overqualified for this subject, that's for sure. And we look forward to seeing you on September the 16th.
I'm excited to be there.
Yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Ash. So can you tell us about how you've integrated? First of all, I just want to say I love what you said about HR being at the forefront of strategy. And also, can you share how AI should be at the forefront of integrating strategy throughout the people practices?
Yeah, I think what people are doing right now, or what a lot of my clients and people that attend my workshops and other folks I'm seeing, is we're right at, to me, the genesis of learning, right? We're starting to understand, we're starting to play around a little bit with AI. We're looking at things from, you know, how it can help me with some of the, I call them rocks in our shoes. Like, what are some of the rocks in my shoe? I need to send an annual communication strategy out around morale building, or I need to build a new approach to my performance management, or we've just finished engagement surveys and I need to do some analysis on that. And I think where it's the right place to be with where the technology has launched, but I do think when it comes to the strategy around it, that partnership of technology and human-focused engagement can be very closely linked. Take the example of engagement. Not only can AI technology support in navigating and analyzing the insights and the information that come back in a much more efficient way, but with natural language processing, it actually allows us to get more deeper into the sentiment and the meaning behind the words that people use. So where that creates a real shift in approach and strategy is kind of threefold. The first one is the manner with which we seek insight and get feedback on how our employees are feeling and thus impacting our engagement process is typically through Likert scale questions. And Likert scale questions are that, rate it 1 through 5 or 1 through 9. And part of the reason that was so embedded was because it was easier to analyze. We now have tools that allow us to get into deeper sentiment analysis and meaning behind the words. And so we can actually shift and adjust the way that we're asking the questions in an engagement survey to be more thoughtful, to be more narrative, have fewer questions, so it takes less time to fill it out. But that output can be so much more robust by using a tool like artificial intelligence and some very specific tools, not necessarily ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, to actually do that analysis. So I love that idea that if we think about AI as a way to leverage the strengths that we have and the time that we want to be doing things like engagement, there's so much power there. And that's just one simple example.
That's amazing. And what do you think are some common misconceptions that organizations have about AI and HR, and how do we overcome these?
Yeah, I started my own journey back in December of 22. So I had left corporate America. I'd been in corporate HR leader, CHRO, VP of HR, whatever title you want to give me, for about 25 years. Started in L&D and transitioned. And when I left, I started a company called Culture Markers, which was all focused around frameworks for actually sort of systematizing and taking a more scientific view of culture building. But when I found ChatGPT in December of 22, it completely shifted my focus. And part of the reason for that is because I started to see a future where HR leaders were sort of left behind in AI adoption and the conversation around AI. And that's because we really have struggled, I think, with the idea of, first of all, it's not where we've spent our careers growing, especially for those of us that have been in the business for a long time. And over the past 10 years, there's been a lot of focus on being data analysts and understanding data and working with the metrics. And that's hard for a lot of HR leaders who just don't have the training to do that. And so I think that's the backdrop with which a lot of people view HR leadership, which is they don't really lean into that and they kind of struggle with understanding. And I don't mean to generalize, but that is sort of a generality. I think the misconception is that with AI, we don't have to be the scientific data science nerd. Sorry, you could pop that out. But the data scientists, brilliant minds around the creation of the technology. We just have to understand what the possible outcomes are and how we can leverage that to build the relationships. And so I think what happens is that we're kind of put into this box of not really being technical. And a lot of people, including oftentimes our technical teams, they don't even understand the real power and potential of AI. And so we're leaving an entire part of the organization out of that conversation oftentimes, or adding them, as I said, as sort of a part of the committee, but not really having a voice. And I'll qualify all of this to say that in order to have a real voice, you have to have an understanding, and understanding comes through education and training. And so that's why, not to be self-serving, but that's why I really link it all back to, flattening the learning curve is so incredibly important, and getting people, HR leaders, to feel comfortable and confident in talking about it so that they can make informed decisions, whether that is to integrate, not integrate, partially integrate. You can't really have a voice unless you feel like you've got confidence, and training and education is so important in that confidence. That's why I think this event that SHRM is putting on is so critically important for the HR leaders in the New York City area, just to have that exposure.
I, for one, am so excited to attend and learn from you. I'm so inspired by everything that you've shared. And with that, I would love to hear more about what brought you on this journey.
Well, yeah, like I said, I think for me, it was having this realization of, I think, putting myself in the seat of being in-house again. You know, for me, going through COVID was incredibly difficult. My soul and my heart go into the still traumatic experiences that a lot of HR leaders, many HR leaders and supporters had to kind of carry during that time. And so for me, it was this idea that this is HR leaders through that process, I feel strongly, learned a lot about agility, learned a lot about dealing with unprecedented situations. And for me, when I first started learning about it, it was a direct correlation in my mind. Me sitting at my desk trying to figure out how I was going to have a conversation or write an email about religious beliefs as it relates to vaccination policies. I literally had flashbacks to those tasks I had to complete, and the comment in my mind of, gosh, I wish I had this at the time. I know I joke a lot about how I sound like my dad, where I was like, oh, he always says, when I was growing up, I had to walk 3 miles uphill to school both ways in the snow with no shoes. And I feel that way a little bit when it comes to AI for future generations. This like, gosh, you're not going to know what it's like to sit on your couch for 3 months and with wine and highlighters, going through employee experience data. But it's important that they don't have to do that, because technology and AI allows us to do more faster and be more effective. And so for me, that journey, right around the February, March time, 2023 last year, I dove in deep. I went to MIT, I got certified. I went to Luxembourg and got certified there with a bunch of really incredibly smart data scientists and PhDs, and have spent the past 2 years now working to increase my own knowledge and share that knowledge with others in a variety of ways to help HR leaders be a big part of the transition and what the future of work is going to look like.
I love that. And I'd love to just close on the question, as someone with deep expertise in both AI and organizational culture, you've already given us amazing advice. What are some last tidbits to give to HR leaders who maybe are hesitant to embrace AI?
You know what? I don't even think it's just HR leaders, Pamela. I think in many of the client conversations I have, one of the first questions I ask when I'm running workshops is, let's talk about what conversations are happening in your company right now about AI. And I'm not going to lie, some of the biggest, most well-known companies out there, even those that are more technically focused, as in it is their company ethos, they're not talking about it. And so I think the most important thing is that we start having conversations. We start asking employees, what are you using? How is it helping you? What are the processes? Have you seen an improvement in efficiency? Have you found really greater insights from using these tools? Do you feel you understand them? So I think at its core, which again is very me, it comes back to the relationship and the connection and asking and seeking insight. Because it's only when we have that knowledge that we can actually start to cultivate a strategy that aligns with the needs of the business and also puts up the appropriate roadmap, which I like to use instead of guardrails, but roadmap for how to use it most successfully, as opposed to, a bunch of renegades out there. The one statistic I'm sure I'll share this on the 16th of September, because I share it a lot, is that, over 40% of people that use tools like ChatGPT use the information that comes out of it exactly as is. There are challenges with that. And unless you have the opportunity to educate and support and provide people with the right roadmap that feels comfortable, that they can get their arms around and start to wrap their head around, we're in a place where we're going to have a lot of people trying to figure it out themselves. And that's often not the best way when it comes to things that have, there's some questions about, such as AI.
Thank you so much for this preview of what we're going to learn on September 16th. I could not be personally more excited about an event.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Me too. Thank you both for taking a few minutes today and sort of talking with me about the event and my perspective and experience. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to meet everybody on the 16th.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks, Theresa.
Will do.